Good morning, Father Principal. Good morning, Mr. Bharat, and good morning, Arup, sir.
shawl వచ్చేది shawl because President Jeffrey Aspen.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, I would like to extend my gratitude to each one of you for being present here today. It is my honor and privilege to present to you Mr. Bharat Moossaddee, Executive Vice President and ex-CFO of Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. We are honored to have in our midst our principal, Reverend Dr. Dominic Savio SJ, who has always encouraged us to reach greater heights. We would also like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our teacher in charge, Dr. Arup Kumar Mitra, for always supporting us and guiding us, without which EDC could not have accomplished what it has. The topic for today's session is Reflection of Educational Choices on One's Entrepreneurial Journey. We are beyond thrilled to have you join us, sir, and are extremely thankful to you for taking out the time for a session with us from your busy schedule. On behalf of everyone at EDC, I wish all the attendees a great time learning. May I now please request Father to say a few words.
So thank you very much. Very good morning to all of you. Mr. Bharat Moossaddee, our speaker for the day today, Dr. Arup Kumar Mitra, the professor in charge of EDC, and all our very enthusiastic students. Very good morning. And once again, welcome to this morning session with Mr. Bharat Moossaddee. One thing I always believe, the whole EDC is running so well at St. Xavier's College. It is because of the great enthusiasm and the great initiative of our students. So my heartfelt gratitude to our students. Surely we were, before our program began, we had a very good chat with Mr. Bharat Moossaddee. I feel that he is the right person to speak to us, Jesuit products, Jesuit institution students, who has experienced Jesuit education, who has experienced Jesuits, hospitality, how, the Jesuit helped him to become what he is today. He is so grateful. That's what, we had. It was very, very heartwarming to listen to him. And, he shared whatever, he experienced at Jaipur St. Xavier's. So he is the right person I felt to motivate us, sharing his experience. I am very, very grateful to Mr. Bharat Moossaddee for accepting us to speak to us this morning. It's a great blessing to be here today to discuss and gain insight into what the future corporate life and entrepreneurship would entail and how different they are from each other. I feel discussion like these are important as they help young minds get a preview into what decisions they could potentially take for their future and what would be the implications of such decisions. The value that you as students can derive from this session is immense. It will make you better equipped and prepared for what is to come later in life. With the expanding entrepreneurial culture and corporate environment in the country, it is highly beneficial to know what these career paths mean and how well suited you would be for them. The lessons that we take away with us from the sessions with, I don't think we can get a better than anybody, Mr. Bharat Moossaddee, like this to shape the very purpose of enterprise. As you know, enterprise is an advanced business conclave that concurrently offers opportunities to learn from such enriching speaker sessions and to participate and thrive in intrinsic entrepreneurial simulations. As you know, it aims to inspire students to plan, progress, and prepare for a successful tomorrow. I won't like to speak much because we have a person who is, very known in any of us, and he is here. My only wishes and wish you all the best to team EDC who organized it so well, and wish you all a great time of learning this morning, and wish you all the best. Once again, a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Bharat Moossaddee, to Xavier, of course, is online, and he has a deep root of in West Bengal, in Kolkata. I extend my warm welcome when he comes to Kolkata to Xavier. Thank you, Mr. Bharat Moossaddee. Once again, we are grateful to you for accepting to speak to us this morning. Thank you very much. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Father. Thank you for those kind words. And a very good morning to all my friends and the entire community and fraternity of Xavier's and Xavier's College, Calcutta. And particularly, I'm very thankful to Reverend Father Dr. Dominic Savio to kind of invite me for this particular occasion. And and the topic is very very current. So I would compliment the EDC for having selected this topic, and I made it as a part of the opening ceremony for the Entreprise 2022. So before I start, I want to kind of lay down some context. One is, that a lot of people just associate enterprise with a private enterprise, like a corporate sector, business. But in my view, the enterprise, extends far beyond a private enterprise. It includes public enterprise, social enterprise. In fact, social entrepreneurship is very common these days globally, and it's coming up very strongly in India also. And so whatever path you people choose in your life, because there are people from science stream, arts, as well as commerce. So we are not just saying that, the commerce students who largely go into the business enterprise. We are talking of, public enterprise, for example, the civil services, because there also, you could create an enterprise or, whether it is a public sector organization or even in a kind of, a typical ecosystem which you create. For example, even a rural ecosystem, you create an enterprise, because the definition of enterprise is you create something innovative, something where, the high energy levels are there. So I don't want to talk much about enterprise because you would have read all about that, in your over the net and in your various, literature. But to me, enterprise itself is a very wide connotation. And I would say that each of you are on an entrepreneurial journey, irrespective of whatever stream you have chosen for yourself, whether it's science or commerce or arts, and whatever subjects you are specializing in. So that is number one. And in today's, I was just reflecting on, how should I take it? So I said, I will be drawing a lot from my own personal journey, so that it doesn't become very theoretical, and it is It gives you a very, very practical insight into the entrepreneurship journey. And as Father rightly said, what it entails for future. And, I mean, in a lot of way, okay, I mean, what was there 35 years back, I mean, may not exactly be there for the next 25, 30 years or 35 years. But still, one can draw a lot of learnings and lessons from that. So first, let me kind of lay down the macro context of where we are. As you would have kind of read that, the government of India has kind of, is celebrating India at 75, which is rightly so because, India is completing 75 years of independence. And they have very broadly laid out a map for India at 100. So next 25 years, I would say it is basically, the whole century is India's century, but next 25 years particularly would be a very, very high growth environment for India, where, I mean, it would be like India would be proceeding with a breathtaking speed and, would be at the top of the, I mean, as an economy, as a country, it will be the top of the league amongst all the nations. And in this context, let me tell you, I mean, the task of all the entrepreneurs becomes all the more easier because you have to just ride the wave. And, I mean, when we started our career, of course, it wasn't that, but very soon, once we had that dream budget of Manmohan Singh in 1991, we were there on that, the expansionary journey. So given that kind of a context, I would say that, I mean, this is a very you people, and in fact, all of us, because, I'm also kind of just going to begin my second innings. So all of us are very fortunate that, we'll be kind of, moving from India at 75 to India at 100 at a, very high kind of a velocity, and which will all help your ventures and enterprise, whichever area you people have chosen, you people have already chosen your first basic stream. So, and beyond that, and we'll discuss more on that as we go along. So whichever course you take, it will be a very, very exciting journey for all of us. So having put that macroeconomic kind of or a macro context, let me now tell what are the criteria where you, on the basis of which you make your educational choices and how it kind of evolves. So again, first of all, let me say that, of course, these days there are a lot of these commercial organizations which promise to be, doing the right kind of career counseling. I'm not a great fan of that, not because I'm old-fashioned, but I'll just tell you that, I mean, those are very, very static in nature. I mean, they'll tell you, okay, this is your career, and based on whatever tests they conduct, firstly, that itself is not very, very proven. But still, even if we give them the benefit of doubt, I mean, it is a very static model. Whereas the career choice and the planning of the entrepreneurial journey is a very, very dynamic kind of field. And where, I mean, you start with your passion or your basic choice based on which you have taken your subjects and based on which you have a plan for future. It's a very dynamic one. I'll tell you my own example. When I was in undergraduate college, I was of your age. I mean, my real passion, so to say, at that time was to start my own CA practice and settle down in my CA practice in Jaipur. And today I am far away from that. I mean, there's no kind of connect with what I thought at that time was my kind of a dream or my passion. So, the things evolve, so I kind of took commerce, went into CA, and as I was doing CA, I realized that was not the thing for me. So it's not that I made a wrong career choice, but it was a kind of a journey where I said, I want a much bigger canvas and a much bigger play at the national level, at the minimum, maybe at the global level, but definitely not, in the area of CA practice. So the first thing which you call as your basic passion or, I mean, that itself went through a change. And trust me, the first one which I had kind of come up was after a lot of deliberation. So that's why I'm saying that today you people, whatever career choices you have made, it may undergo a change, because the world is changing so fast, particularly over the next few years, that you will very soon evolve, and you should evolve. This is the reason why I'm saying is that you should not feel shy that I mean, I started with this X, and today I don't find this X very appealing. Maybe I made a wrong choice. No, you have not made the wrong choice. It is just the way the things are. This is the nature of the beast, that it will it will evolve, and one should evolve it. One should not just get stuck because today I have chosen. I mean, if I would have got stuck with my first career choice, I would have been a CA, settled in Jaipur, and I can tell you, I mean, my overall journey wouldn't have been even 10% exciting than what it is today after 35 years of my corporate career. So that is the first one, that you kind of go for what you are passionate about, but keep on reflecting over it, keep on making choices, and if need be, pivot it and go to whatever excites you most. Because for whatever advice you've been given by various people, family, friends, career counselors, when you are actually in it, you will know, when you are in the practical world, that okay, this doesn't excite me, and it will happen to a lot of people. So that is one. Number two is the value systems. So again, value systems plays a very important role, and one should be very clear and very sharp about that. Because again, taking my I mean, going from my own value system, I realized it pretty early, after particularly after doing my MBA, that that money and my own finances are important, but that is not my key kind of value system. But again, don't have anything negative about it. There may be people who would go after money, and that is perfectly fine. Maybe they'll go into then be kind of go into investment banking or go into the stock markets. But I wanted a much bigger canvas to play, to achieve something where I can contribute, and not very much guided by money. So that was my value system. Some value system would be, okay, create your own family business, and I mean, within your social or ecosystem. So that value system one should recognize, because there should not be a mismatch. Otherwise, if there is a mismatch, then later on there's a problem. Then you may have to kind of I mean, there would be a misalignment, and which will not result in the kind of satisfaction and happiness you want. And the third one is, of course, I mean, I mentioned it partly in the point two, which is the your own social fabric. And there again, drawing from my example, I mean, at that time, India, I mean, I'm talking of about say 30 years or 35 years back. India was a very, I mean, it was an underdeveloped economy very clearly, and there was no comparison between, say, a career in India and career in the US. A lot of my friends, shifted to US because the career over there was much more lucrative and much more offered a much, for to say canvas, much bigger canvas. But I was, based on my own social fabric, my family, my own ecosystem, I said, okay, that's I think I have to recognize that I have to operate within India. And last 35 years, I have operated out of India, and I have no regret about it. So that is the your own choices, the way it will have an interplay in your future educational choices, and then the career choices. And then another very important thing one has to be cognizant about is the overall macroeconomic movements. So or the macro movements, I would say. So there again, one very important highlight I would like to mention is that if you go back in time, around the 70s and maybe till mid 80s, there was this era of specialization. You had chartered accountants, you had engineers, you had doctors. I mean, specialization, and MBA was not that much in vogue. And with the result, what happened was, corporates, they found that I mean, people were in their own silos, they were doing their own thing, but you needed generalists who would kind of bring all that together and take the enterprise to the next level. And that's how the MBA boom, so to say, was started. And then next 30 years saw the evolution of the generalists, that people who were generalists with a little bit of specialization, but not too much. And they were the ones who were in demand. They were in the vogue because they could connect the dots. They could kind of bring everything together and provide the value to the enterprise. But in the last 3-4 years, particularly after the startup world has emerged, this again has gone a change. Thanks to the technology, because today the technology itself enables the joining of the dots. So again, the trend has moved away from that generalist. I won't say MBA, but but if you are doing MBA, then also you should have a strong niche, strong specialization. So earlier, I myself, more of a generalist and a highly specialized kind of, in my own field. But if I were to give example, I was like more in financial strategy and overall financial management. But if today I were to do my MBA, I would do it in fintech, specialized areas like blockchain and, things which are very highly specialized, because that's now the demand of the day. So one has to recognize these kind of macroeconomic and the macro trends emerging in the field of education, in the field of career, very closely, so that your entrepreneurial journey, whether you do a startup or whether you do a job in the corporate sector, ultimately, as I said, you are creating your own enterprise. And while you are creating your own enterprise, you are aligned to what are the macro trends. Another kind of a macro trend is that there is a big move towards the digitalization. In fact, again, to draw a parallel, when we started, it was overall a completely manual kind of systems, and then from there we moved to computerization, basic computerization, then ERP, and then now we are in the digital journey. So this digital journey has the kind of, can have very far-reaching consequences, and can take you completely off guard. And there would be certain places where, things like machine learning and artificial intelligence may just take over the human jobs. So I'm not saying it's a kind of a threat, but one has to evolve around that. And particularly professions like whether it's legal, accounting, taxation, functions which are currently done by humans, has a very high potential of being taken over by artificial intelligence. And those professions may see a major transformation, if not elimination. So one has to be very cognizant of that also. Because if one is not cognizant, you may think that, okay, today, for example, a legal career is very good. There are a lot of corporate lawyers and they scan a lot of documents, draft a lot of documents. But all that might be gone in a space of 5 years, because all that could be very easily be done by the computer, by the artificial intelligence. And then you may have to again, do a pivoting, but of course of the wrong kind, because, you may have to retrace your steps. So one has to be very cognizant of these macroeconomic trends. So, in a nutshell, what I would say is that, whether it is your, the passion or your value systems, your own kind of, social fabric and the overall macro trends, one has to continuously evolve, because, the opportunities are endless. Right now, of course, we are in the era of startups. And now on startups also, I'll just give you an insight, because, because India so far did not have that entrepreneurial culture and, those startups organization which is based on technology. And they are at a very nascent stage. That's why they are called startups. But by the time you people will, after doing your initial work X and maybe doing a post-graduation, so on an average, just assuming that, it will take another 5 years to really come to the entrepreneurship journey, entrepreneurship world, these startups will no longer be startups. Majority of them, they would be, they would have evolved just like a child evolves from a childhood to a teenager to adulthood. They would be somewhere between their teenage and adulthood. And they would be young corporates, and, you may think that, it will be quite a good fun being at the startup where, everything is, reasonably kind of networked and informal. But by the time you reach there, there'll be some kind of a formalness, and, it would have evolved. But of course, for the better only, it will evolve into young, dynamic corporate, which will require a completely different set of skills than even a startup. So one has to be cognizant again of that, to continuously evolve, continuously make your choices. And, as you know, kind of your journey kind of moves ahead, that continuous evolution and making the choices is very, very important. I can't emphasize that more. Again, taking a cue from my own journey, I said, that initially I was, I was so much sold into this CA practice. From there, I evolved into MBA and then corporate. But within corporate also, as the trends changed, the liberalization happened, I moved towards multinationals, and multinationals also, which were coming to India first time. So, it gave me an opportunity to start that enterprise in India. Just rather than joining already a mature multinationals like General Motors, Royal Dutch Shell, which were already there in India, or which was, which were just coming to India. In fact, I was the first employee of at least 3 major organizations, General Motors, Royal Dutch Shell, and then another very big organization, Gumberg of USA, which was in infrastructure. And that gave me a full exposure to enterprise and entrepreneurship journey. But and at the same time, grow up those companies from basically to start to the large enterprises. And because of which, only I was able to associate myself with the startups, particularly in the later half of my Mahindra career, when Mahindra was promoting a lot of startups. And, I was kind of, I had the good opportunity or good fortune to get associated with those startups, beyond finance, I would say, as a kind of as a business enterprise, and work closely with the whole team to develop that startup from a very, very nascent stage to where they are today. So all that happened because, I was quite passionate about, building enterprises. So one has to take, again, cognizant of the macroeconomic or the environment around that, where, things are moving into from Indian organizations to multinationals. And now, in a way, they're moving back to the Indian organization. Why? It's not just a fad or a trend. It is because the Indian organizations itself are growing so big in size that they are virtually the Indian MNCs. They are transnational in nature. Even the startups, they're growing so much that they are kind of moving outside of India, they are expanding the operation outside of India in a big way. So the whole thing has changed from in the last 30 years, and I'm sure when we are sitting here today, the change will be even, that delta change would be even much bigger, because just like you have the principle of acceleration, the rate of change is increasing. I have already witnessed that, over the last 10 years, that it is accelerating, and that if that acceleration continues, and there's no reason not to believe that will not continue, that the rate of change would be so much that, if you have a kind of a fixed mindset, fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Fixed mindset versus growth mindset means willing to adapt to change, willing to be flexible. And you think, okay, this is what the career I've chosen, this is, or maybe even a startup, then, you will not be optimizing on this India journey of India at 75 to India at 100. If you want to achieve to your maximum potential, make your choices such that, it keeps on evolving, and every place you will have a kind of a choice, and the product of the choice would be what your career would be. So whether it is an educational choice, in fact, education also will be a continuous, much more of a continuous paradigm than it was in our times, because the skill levels required to change. They are already changing from the basic computerization. Now you need to have digital skills. You need to have skills in ML and AI, even if you are not directly associated with them. Even if you are a functional expert, you need to kind of understand, how these things work, so that you can prepare better, reports, better insights. So one has to continuously kind of go for your choices, and then, of course, as I said, you are riding the wave. So success is definitely ensured, I must tell you. That is another takeaway from me based on my 35 years experience, though that time the economy was not on that kind of a growth path. But even people who were average, so to say, I mean, they did pretty well, because they continuously evolved their choices and continuously evolved themselves. And they reached very good positions in their own area of enterprise. And last but not the least, before I throw it open for a discussion, is that in your career, I mean, there'll be a lot of mistakes you will make continuously. We all know. I would say that you will make at least 2 to 3 very big mistakes. I made those mistakes, and one doesn't need to get deterred by that at all. I mean, your career, your life journey allows for those kind of mistakes, and I mean, it's like it's like a company which may have a bad year, but still it is a multi-bagger. So still your career will be a multi-bagger. So don't get deterred by that. In fact, it is a given that you will make those mistakes. I mean, one mistake from my own journey I can point out is that I went for a CA, which I thought was my passion, and then later on, once I kind of went deep into it, I realized that my real passion was on the business side, and then I kind of went for my MBA. So that is one about the mistakes part. Second, even if you are not committing any mistake, there will be a situation of disruptions or major, and again, small disruptions will keep on happening, but at least 2 to 3, again, major disruptions will happen over a longish career like what I'm kind of, experienced. And again, you can't do anything about it, but that doesn't mean the end of the world, doesn't mean, in fact, I mean, you will come out stronger out of it. Again, I would like to give an example from my own career that, in one of the organizations, we were just launching in India, and we were launching investment of about $1 billion. This was in 2007 end. And it required outside funding of about $1 billion. The investment was much more. And then suddenly from nowhere, this financial crisis happened, global financial meltdown, which we are all, I'm sure you people have heard. It's now a little bit kind of older in time, but still, it has been well documented that, it was a major financial meltdown. And so investments were just not coming because, and we had to somehow, we needed equity funding, we needed debt funding. And, $1 billion was a very tall order, and I was kind of heading finance. And it was on my shoulders. Otherwise, the company would go insolvent, bankrupt, and that would be the end of it. So first, we cut down the investment itself. We said we will phase it out, not exactly cut down, but we'll phase it out. Initially, we'll kind of maybe have only 1/3 of it in the first phase and push the other one. And there also do a combination of debt and equity and various combinations we did. Took help of a lot of Indian banks, which were largely untouched by the financial crisis, to take debt from them, and equity also, through a combination of strategic equity and venture equity. So it was it was really it was a nightmare for me, I must say, that 1 year where I had to do a financial closure of close to about $300 million. But so it was just like my world was falling apart. But trust me, it didn't fall apart, and I came out much stronger from it. So similar kind of disruption, not exactly in the same thing. For example, this Corona happened, but of course, Corona, it's not. I don't consider. I mean, overall, in a social context, and it's a big disruption. But from somehow, again, India has, as an economy, has not taken that much of a beating. But still, and there may be a situation where it may not be that much. That much spread, but it may be restricted to your own ecosystem or maybe to your own company, and the company may be on the verge of shutting down. Those kind of disruptions you'll face. But again, you'll come out stronger. One doesn't have to just kind of, bother about it. So these are my personal advice to you, undergraduate students at this stage of your educational journey, I would say. But keep that in mind. And last, I don't mean it to be a pep talk, but I can tell you, the way where India is today and where you people are in your educational journey, success is 100% assured for each one of you. So on that basis, or on that note, I will end my talk, and I would like it to be more interactive, for the remaining half an hour. Thank you everyone, and thanks Father once again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. I think it was a truly enlightening session, and all the attendees really enjoyed. And we've been getting questions on our YouTube live chat as well. So one of the questions that we received is, in the next 25 years, would it be a very high growth environment in India? And how do we as young individuals get ready for the cutthroat competition that lies ahead?
Yeah, definitely it would be a very high growth environment. And I'm not saying, because it doesn't depend on the government. I mean, that I think I should make it very clear. So I'm not kind of, propagating what Modi is saying or what, Mamta ji might be saying. But irrespective of the government, the current budget is just an example. Government has not done much. The people who have looked at the budget very, analytically, but the economy is in such a autopilot. I mean, it is still considered a great landmark budget because not doing anything was actually the need of the hour. So irrespective of anything, just to answer your first question, be a very high growth environment. And of course, whichever government is there, they will enable that. So you'll be on that. And as long as you ride the curve, I mean, there will be good competition, but at the same time, the opportunities will be endless, will be immense. And all you have to do is make the right judgment or the right choice between the opportunities, be it on the field of education and so, as somebody says, that life is all the product of various choices you make at various point of time. And here you may have to make a choice maybe every year or every couple of years. You keep on making the right choices from the immense opportunities which a growing economy offers. Competition will take care. You will be always in demand, whether in the corporate sector or whether it is your own enterprise, where we have seen that I have personally witnessed startups who have weathered immense competition and come out with a 10x value, 15x value in the last 3-4 years, just by kind of not bothering about the competition, but more kind of, they have their eyes on the opportunities which are ahead of them.
Thank you for the answer, sir. Sir, our next question is, you said that MBA has become a general thing now, but we should focus more on getting specialized knowledge these days. But with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have witnessed new skills and new technical knowledge come into demand really fast in a very short span of time. So do you think people who have a very niche knowledge, have a very technical knowledge about one particular area, stand at a disadvantage in these situations?
No, it's the other way. So, yeah, you are also Bharat. Yeah. So Bharat, so I would say it's the other way. So, I was just highlighting that, because of the way the technology has gone about, or the way the trends have emerged, that there was an era of specialization, when we were in school, for example. And, the engineers, the chartered accountants and all, I mean, and when they were ruling the waves. And MBA was just emerging, but it was MBA ka India mein koi future nahi hai. MBA is more for the Western world. But very soon corporates realized that unless they have the MBAs who would provide the value to the organization, all the specialists in their own silos will not be able to give the value to the organization. So that's why, as I said, from 85 to maybe over the last 30-35 years, MBA is called ruled the roost. But the trend is again changing, and it's the other way, as you're saying, that people who have niche knowledge, they are very much in demand. Generalists, one, of course, there's a increased supply, just like everything, once, everyone knows that, okay, MBA is the thing to go for. So right from your, first year of BCom, or even BA or BSc, people start taking tutorials for CAT, and then, Or even in IITs, rather than specializing in their core domain, everyone wants to move to an MBA and become a generalist. But the future era generalists also, it's not that something wrong will happen, but they will not thrive as much as people with niche knowledge and people who are specialists in their field. So that trend is changing, because the job of generalist is now being done by technology itself, like joining the dots, which earlier the MBAs used to do.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, as you mentioned that earlier you planned on venturing into CA practice, but now what you do is totally different from that. So, what should a person do when they realize that what they've already undertaken is actually not their cup of tea?
And that will happen. I mean, that is what the point I was making, and that's why I drew on my personal example, that in a lot of cases, and particularly going forward, it will happen more so, because the earlier world was comparatively static. It was not exactly static, it was also evolving. But here now that, there's like in science, you have the acceleration, the speed of change is increasing every year. And with that increased speed, I mean, so everything around you will get disrupted. So you had decided on your passion based on certain assumptions, certain ecosystem around you, and you cannot be, even if you are a genius, you cannot predict the changes which will go around you. And there are changes. Suppose you took a legal as a a very sought after field, and you cracked the CLAT and joined one of those national law colleges, and and suddenly that time nobody thought that artificial intelligence will come around and disrupt the legal profession. But if it does, so either I'm just giving a practical example, either you change within the legal field to be a more of a litigation person rather than a pure corporate lawyer who's involved more in paperwork, which would be more disrupted by the computerization or by artificial intelligence. But I mean, the good old lawyer's job in a court, or I mean, whether it is civil law or criminal law, that will still prosper. So within that area, or maybe you have done your legal. After legal, you may kind of join a kind of still some corporate practice with one of these big either consulting firms or big accounting firms. So though they are in to called accounting or strategy firms or consulting firms, they would kind of have a need for a legal person as well, but you will not be in that highly specialized legal domain. So what I'm saying, you will have to make a choice at that time, and that's why I said that time no amount of career counseling will help you. You are the person on the ground, and you have to kind of make your choice based on whatever is in front of you. In fact, during my kind of a journey, I would say there were people who did their CA, and of course they just stuck on to that. I mean, they didn't make the change that early, and they were okay with their CA practice. But within a few years, they realized that I mean, there was not much scope, and it was not their cup of tea. They did their LLB in almost at the age of maybe 30 as a part-time LLB or whatever, and graduated from a CA practice to a legal practice. So I'm not undermining CA practice, but CA practice, what happened, it consolidated around the big four. So if you are in a small town, then you are very, very disadvantaged. So so they went into a legal practice, and now they're thriving as a legal practice. But again, all these are very, very situational. So there's no standard prescription of for that, but definitely either within your that educational stream. I mean, of course, you have to complete whatever you are there. I mean, I also completed my CA, but then you kind of graduate into something bigger or something different. And these kind of things will continuously evolve. In fact, again, I mean, very different kind of switches I have seen, that people from private sector at comparatively late stage, they have gone into civil services. People have done their MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. They were with a multinational bank, doing very well. Just said, no, it's not my cup of tea. I'll go for the civil service. They appeared for IAS, and today they are doing very, very well in the public service domain. And similarly, I have known friends who, after joining IAS and spending the first 5 years, which are the roughest, they said, oh no, this IAS is not my cup of tea. They quit the IAS and came totally in the private enterprise kind of space. and again doing very well. So the thing what I want to mention and tell you people is, even if you make the change, I can tell you, and as long as you have rediscovered your passion, don't be afraid of making a change. It may look very drastic, but you will do much better than being stuck in something which you don't like, even though it might have been your choice in the first place.
Thank you, sir. Sir, our next question from the audience is, for people who come from very humble backgrounds, is it worth to take the risk and start their own enterprise, put everything on the line, or is it just better to enter the rat race and build a good corporate career? What should people who come from very humble backgrounds do?
Yeah, again, it depends on individual to individual, because there are people who have started their own enterprise from very humble backgrounds and done extremely well. So that depends on your risk-taking appetite and risk-taking capability. So they may be, there would be people, I mean, not to talk of anyone, but Dhirubhai Ambani himself. He was a petrol pump attendant, and I mean, nobody can be more coming from a more humble background. And he went for but he had a high risk-taking ability, and from you can see from where he he went and where he kind of ended up. But at the same time, I would say that one should not be hung up also that okay, it's a startup world and startup is the buzzword. So I mean, maybe my risk taking is not that great, but I will go for the startup. Creating an enterprise itself, it is very much possible in even if you join a private sector group. I would even say even if you join a social sector or even a public sector, public policy, IAS, I've known, in fact, some of my friends are IAS officers, who quit private sector to join IAS. They have created an enterprise around whatever they are doing in the ecosystem. And some of them, even after retirement, they are kind of cultivating that kind of a thing around, they've adopted a particular socio subsystem or a village or something. And that itself, if you adopt a village, and do something for that. So it may not be exactly as I said, the value system. If you think that money doesn't matter that much in life, you can be a social entrepreneur, adopt a village, and do something for the upliftment of that particular village. That itself will be a creating of an enterprise.
Okay, so first of all, good morning, sir. I had a question. So today we see a positive change toward entrepreneurship, and that's really good for a country like India, where majority of the population is youth. But we all know that almost 85 to 90% of the startups fail within the 3 to 5 years of their inception. So do you think that this entrepreneurship trend is creating a sort of a rat race where everyone wants to start a startup?
Yeah, in fact, so you have hit it on the, you have hit the nail on the head. In fact, that is one of the things I was kind of pointing towards, that startup is not the beginning and end of the world. So it's not that if you think that you want to create an enterprise, you have to do a startup. And I mean, if you feel that startup is not your cup of tea, definitely you should join a. In fact, a lot of large groups in India, whether it is the Tata Group or the Mahindra Group or the Birla Group, they are creating these startups. So you can be within the corporate umbrella or within the shelter of that corporate umbrella. If your risk taking is not that high, rather than failing that, you create your startups or that kind of ecosystem within that. So you'll have the best of both worlds, which partly happened like in my case, where I've actually created a lot of startups, but I always did that under a corporate garage, so to say, or under a corporate umbrella. So definitely, this startup is not the beginning and end. It depends. But at the same time, you may still think that startup is my cup of tea. And just like I said, CA I thought was my cup of tea, and then I kind of moved out of. I mean, not moved away from it, but graduated from there. So you may start a startup, and then if you think that no, I mean, I'd be better off being in the corporate world, you should make that change. And in fact, corporates today are receiving people who have that kind of experience. In fact, in my Mahindra journey, particularly in the last 3-4 years, I've hired people, who have, if I were to use a strong word, who have failed in the startup. But I don't consider that as a failure. They had an experience of startup entrepreneurial journey. So that itself shows that they have that kind of a startup or an entrepreneurial vision, and that fire in the belly is there. But for various reasons, they couldn't move forward. So they are welcome back to the corporate. So that's why I say one should not hesitate to kind of call an end, and then pivot and move on to whatever you think is the best for you at that point of time. Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir. Sir, you mentioned quite a bit of startups. So why have startups started focusing on growth rather than profit? So they start with a growth goal, but they're never able to turn into a profitable startup.
Yeah, see, the thing is that, when the startups start right from scratch, and because of the heavy competition in today, in every area where the startup is, there's a trade-off between growth and profitability. You cannot achieve both. And if you really go for the profitability, or I won't say even profitability, to break even, you say that, no, I don't want to incur losses, then your growth will be hampered. And in that world, the way it is expanding, that area is expanding. So, you will never be able to have a foothold in that particular market. And if you don't have a foothold in the market, you may start with a break even, and you will then go bust. Whereas if you kind of create a foothold, means have a market share of at least, I'm saying, if not even 5, maybe 2-3%. And for that also you have to burn money. But if you are able to create a niche for yourself, even after burning money, create a top line. And then, if you focus, there are ways of how to then turn around. And that was, in fact, my area of specialization, and is still the area of specialization. So if you are planning anything like this, I will be definitely more than happy to mentor you into your, startup journey. But definitely, there has to be because of the trade-off. Initially, every time the profitability is not possible. The idea is to, have a critical mass, and that critical mass, comes from where you in the trade-off, you choose the top line or the revenue over the profits. I hope I have answered.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, if we have time, can we entertain one more question, sir?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I love this. So, we can, so I've kept more than 1 hour free for this, because I love interacting with students and with such inquisitive minds. It just shows the passion amongst the students, I'm liking all the questions which I'm getting actually.
Good morning, sir. Sir, so considering that most of us here are in our undergraduate stage of education, and there are two schools of thought in this field. One says that we should mix in and network with people who have exactly our point of view and specialize in what we are doing. And one school of thought says that we should mix in with completely diverse, like polar opposites people. So what is your take on this, sir? Should we mix in and network with people only who specialize in our craft so that we can grow and gain more intricacy and specialization in our craft, or mix in with diverse people who can give us completely different point of views so that we can expand our dominion?
Yeah, it's a tough question because both has its own merits. As you said, one is of course where you kind of, mix with those people, and within that you kind of increase your specialization. But I think that specialization can come from doing a lot of homework at your side, but that diversity in thought will not come. So if I look at it typically as a management problem, and pardon me for doing that because all of my life I have done in that way. So the first thing which you mentioned was that you mix with the people of the same trade to enhance your skills, but that you can do through other means also, by maybe taking a formal course or on the net, doing your own homework. It would be a bit of a tough task, but it is possible. So, I mean, maybe that networking makes it a bit easier, but you take the tough route. But that the kind of the exposure which you get by mixing with people of different trades and different occupation, which that will, I don't think that substitution, that can be substituted by anything which you can do of your own. So I think that would be much more valuable than mixing with people of your trade, and that will give you what is happening also. Suppose because see, otherwise you are in that your own cocoon, and as I said, you have to continuously evolve, and you mix with and you feel that okay, I'm doing XYZ things, and I mean this other guy is doing another, maybe not XYZ but maybe ABC things, and he's growing faster, he's doing so well, or he will also in turn, there are certain things which he is doing and you may not be doing. So what I'm that cross pollination will help you to evolve and make your choices much better, and will result in a growth mindset, which I call it, as compared to a fixed mindset. In fact, there's a lot of literature on that, I'm sure, so just read on that, because that kind of a mindset, which is called the growth mindset, which basically means that you are willing to take risk, willing to adapt to new situations, so interacting with the same this thing, it will be kind of leave you very much in the comfort zone. And again, to take my example, if I had been just interacting with the CAs of the world, this 40 years back or 35 years back, I would have never ventured into MBA, just because I was interacting with my schoolmates and all, who had chosen a very different path, and and some of them were of course abroad also, but I mean I could find that I mean this is much more enriching, and it kind of gives a question mark to what you are doing, and that is the question mark which is required, and more so in the coming age. Have I answered your question, Basit?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Good morning, sir. So I had a question, so which pertains to the fact that you mentioned that we need to ride the trend, and that's what the new generation has to do. So, and you also mentioned that the budget has actually done nothing, but that was the ask of the time. So, but the budget has also highlighted a 30% tax slab on cryptocurrency gains. So the short-term gains on them. Sir, so don't you think that the Indian government is trying to cripple the wave that is bringing up in the Western countries also?
The second part I didn't get. What the Indian government is doing?
Sir, so basically, Indian government has put up a very high tax slab.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, so my question is, don't you think that the Indian government is also trying to cripple the new move that is coming, that is the digital currencies?
No, I mean, in fact, some people are of exactly the opposite view, that they are kind of recognizing and formalizing it, because just before this, as you might have read or you might be, heard, is that, there was a talk of a ban on this entire crypto world. And people were very scared that, this gets banned, then whatever you are doing is illegal. Now they have legitimized it. And any income, I mean, today for salaried people, we pay in tax in the rate in the excess of 37-38%, and if you don't plan it well, it can even touch 40%. So taxing at the rate of 30% is, I mean, in fact, 30% is a slab just after 10 lakhs. So, even, I mean, if a middle class businessman, if he pays his tax honestly, he will have to pay 30% tax on his income, and that is what they are trying to formalize. So, in fact, it is a reason for cheer rather than a reason for. It's not a setback for that crypto world or that digital currency.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for answering all the questions and giving examples from your life. I think it really helped everyone present here. And even we've been continuously receiving responses from the YouTube audience as well. So thank you for that. Sir, may I please request you to declare Entreprise open now?
So won't we let that be done by Reverend Father Principal?
Sir, I think Father is, I'm not sure if Father is here. Yes.
He's not there. So, okay. So In fact, so just to conclude, it has been really a pleasure for me to the last 1 hour interact with young, inquisitive minds. And in fact, the latter half I like much more, because the first half was a monologue. I hope you got some insights from that also. But I'm sure you got lot more from the second half, where I answered all the inquisitive questions, and very in fact the questions were very highly intelligent, which of course is I mean, you can't expect anything less from the Xavier's Calcutta students. So it has been really a pleasure, and now it's my pleasure and honor to declare the Entreprise 2022 open, and hope you people have a really great time. And I'm sure the EDC cell will make sure that it is I mean, just like we are having various sessions, all your sessions over there would be very fruitful. But in any case, if you have any offline questions, I think the EDC cell has my email. If there is some question which if Naziz or shares I can't see, or Chaitanya, any one of you, if you feel I mean, that really you are inquisitive about, and you want to elicit a response from me, you can send me an email.
Sure, sir. Thank
that
you.
Again, I once again kind of commend this Entreprise 2022 to the fraternity of Xavier's College, Calcutta.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll have the closing. Vanshika, may I now please request you to give the closing?
Yeah. After such an inspiring session, it is an absolute honor and my pleasant duty to propose the vote of thanks today on behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of St. Xavier's College, Autonomous, Kolkata. With immense appreciation and gratitude, I thank Mr. Bharat Moossaddee for being present with us today. Adorning the event, your valuable inputs on reflection of educational choices on one's entrepreneurial journey has enlightened us and shown us revolutionary paths for the future. A special mention to our respected principal, Reverend Dr. Dominic Savio SJ, and Vice Principals, Reverend Dr. Joseph Kulendai and Reverend Father Peter Arokyam, for encouraging us to pursue greatness and live up to the great Xaverian reputation. I would further like to thank our faculty advisor, Dr. Arup Kumar Mitra, for his leading supervision and inspiration at every point of time in college. Last but not least, I would extend a deep sense of appreciation for all the support, timely implementation, and guidance provided by the members of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell. We owe the success of the session to you. Once again, thank you all for tuning in with EDC. Have a pleasant day ahead.
Okay, see you then. We'll all log off. Vanshika, we'll all log off now?
Yes, sir, sure. It was great having you.
Same here. It was an absolute pleasure interacting with you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.